Phumelela for inviting me. So I'm just going to talk, as a practitioner. I think there's a lot that's been said about the advantages and corporate and competitive advantage of South Africa, and those are well documented in terms of depth of markets. JSE 25 trillion, of market capitalization, deep skills in the financial space, in the banking and investment world, and all of those are well documented, the legal framework, and you can carry on. So, but for me, is that this competitive advantage that we had for such a long time, we are almost losing it. As they say, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think there was a statement made that, why can't we just leave things as they are? But we can't, because we will be dying. And if you look back a few years ago, I'd never fathomed, if you look at the largest economies in Africa, you used to have South Africa, you used to have the Johannesburg as a city, was the second largest economy, and followed by Nigeria, and you can name the rest. And these countries have actually overtaken us. I mean, Joburg today, it's really a shamble of its former, self. So for me, and that's what doing nothing means, And I think as a practitioner, what are the practical things that you need on the ground to be successful in this, to really implement what we're talking about here, the SFC? So for me, the basics, do we have the skills? The answer is yes, we do have the skills. And we've seen how our skills have actually, ranked overseas. We've got lots of South African asset managers that have gone global, that have really proven themselves, the obvious 91s of this world. And it shows that we can play and be competitive in the global market. And I already mentioned that the richest man is a South African, so I wouldn't even go there. So for me, is that skills are there, and we've heard about the plumbing that is there, and you've got the back office, and the whole idea for me of onshoring is a great one, because we've got the skills. Currently, we manage global equity funds using, UCITS structures in Ireland, and we also manage global or Africa funds that are also domiciled elsewhere. And one of the big thing about that is the cost, the administrative cost. They're very exorbitant because you are using skills in Ireland. You can imagine that. Whereas you've got the skills in South Africa, which could be getting into those jobs. There's all BPO that we talk about, business processing that is coming to South Africa, given the technology and also given the skills that we have in South Africa. And also just being English speaking compared to other nations. So I think those are massive advantages that we just have. Those are inherent advantages that we're not taking advantage of. So for me, I would say we are ready. In terms of business models, in terms of managing those funds, we have been managing those funds. It's not like it's going to be a new thing. I mean, we've got track records of managing those funds and competing, by the way, well against the big boys globally. What is one of our advantages? One of our advantages as an asset manager managing global equity funds. People ask questions whether can a South African company manage global funds in South Africa? The answer is yes. And we are doing it. So one of the competitive advantages is that we've got a good system, a filtering system that take about 100,000, investment instruments globally, and dwindle that down to about a manageable number, call it 1,000, and all of that, then you start doing your fundamental analysis. That screening tool is actually giving us a massive advantage. And also, if you look at information globally, freely available, you can get access through Bloomberg, through any other portal, research portal, any information that a global asset manager gets. And I think that we have the skills, we have the wherewithal, and I think tomorrow we can start. So what are we hoping for? We're hoping that, some of the discussions here, again, just being realistic. If you look at the JSE, I'm not attacking anyone here. So there's been a huge amount of delisting in the JSE. If we want to attract, African corporates to come in this year. Why are South Africans delisted? It's a question. So I think that we need to look at those kind of, issues that the investors, or rather the companies that are delisting from the JSE, what are the issues? Are they being addressed? And going to the mining tower, there's a lot of mining companies that want to list, they want access to capital. They end up going to Australia, to Canada, they're going to AIM in London, but none of them are coming here to South Africa. The question is why? And with this critical mineral, rush, that US, China are fighting for those minerals, we've got them in Africa. But these guys cannot get access to capital. Those guys should be coming here and listing here. And as investors, we want to be investing in those stocks. The non-ZAR listings that we're talking about, they should be happening in hundreds. So unfortunately, there's been so much delistings. I mean, the JSE today, you can invest in about 150 stocks. That's it. That are liquid, where you can go in and out. So the problem of those delistings, one has to look deep into them and find out what the issues are. Lastly, I think the regulatory environment has also been difficult, and I think we talk about the SFC, how that is implemented. If you just look at coffee, I don't want to belabor that point. You look at coffee, how long has it been coming? Since 2018. You look at the hedge fund tax treatment, it's been since 2015 when it was first, when hedge funds were regulated. Still today, 11 years later, we still haven't done that. So if we're going to take up this mammoth task of implementing SFC, when we have not done the basic stuff of, tax clarity on hedge funds, implementing coffee, how are we going to handle this mammoth task? Thank you.
Thank you.